What's up, Warriors, and welcome to another episode of the Mental Health Movement Podcast, Voice for the Voiceless. I'm your host, Chris. Thank you, as always, for your constant support. This most recent podcast with Marcia Earhart was a really big success. A lot of listeners tuned in for that one, and I'm really glad that you guys did so. She was a incredible guest. We have plans to meet somewhere down the road, so maybe we can get an in-person interview next time we record together. But today's guest, she is the co-founder and president of eBars, and she has also studied in the field of psychology a little bit too. Please help me welcome Jan Dalton. Jan, how you doing?
Hi, Chris. Doing well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'm so happy to have you on here as well. So let's kind of dive into your story a little bit here. So before eBars, you had balanced work and raising a child as a single mother. What did that period teach you about resilience and self-care?
Oh my goodness. It's funny looking back, I can see what it taught me. In the middle of it, though, I feel like I was always looking over my shoulder, waiting for the ball to drop.
Right.
And I had a great job, a job that I'd had since fresh out of college. And 12 years later, I was still looking over my shoulder, wondering when the ball was going to drop. And
Hmm.
so I was hindered in a lot of ways. I didn't know that I was hindered in a lot of ways. Um, so I felt like I was probably more in survival mode most of those years of my life. I had a great family and had a lot of friends, and but I still felt very alone. When the door was shut at night and it was just me, and it was more of a survival mode for a lot of years.
Right.
So that's probably when I look back from where I'm at now, then I'm grateful to be where I am right now
Right.
and to be able to reflect back on that, because
Hmm.
that's when we get to come in and really be there for others.
Yeah. And without those trials and tribulations, it's looking back on things to be grateful for and why you're at where you're at now. So tell us how the idea of e-bars came about.
Well, that really came when I met my husband. So when I met him, he had gone through some health issues himself and was on a discovery of learning how to eat healthy. I was right the opposite. I was that fast food mom, get it on the go. We've got an hour drive to school, hour drive back, doing that 4 times a day,
Hmm.
back and forth, twice a day, I mean. And so I was just whatever we could stop and get. And so when we met, he was just starting to make these bars. Some friends of his had coined it, calling it the man bar, and they were semi-healthy, not like they are now, but they met a need for him. And my son was gradually getting into eating them. And when we married, we became an instant blended family. So now I went from 1 to 5 kids, but most were out of the house, also to being a grandmother. So it was like a lot of changes all at once, and eating
Yeah.
healthy was not my priority. But the stress levels that also come with that many changes at one time in your life takes a toll as well, until
Right.
finally you have to sit back and say, okay, I've got to make some changes. And health is usually that priority,
Right.
becomes a priority.
And when those changes began to happen, how would you say you, I guess, coped with those changes? Like, did you, just take some time for yourself and just kind of separate yourself for a little bit, like take an hour out of the day for yourself, or were there any self-care tools that you use to, I guess, unplug?
Walking. So when I met my husband, right before I met my husband, I had started getting out and I knew I needed a mental break. So I would get out and walk. And I lived in an area where I could walk for a couple of miles. There was a park around the corner. So I would try to get out and walk. But once we got married, life was so even faster than I had ever imagined, that I had stopped doing that. And so it was when I finally got back into getting out and going for a walk. Most people, I enjoy running, but walking is, from what I've read and people I've talked to, is so much healthier mentally, for the body. It's easier on the joints, easier on the mind. It's like just getting out. You stop, you take time to look at nature. You There's so much more that comes with it when you just get out for long walks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And for me, just being with nature in general, like you said, you kind of get to absorb everything, get to take everything in, right? And I always found for me, every time that I go for a walk or any time that I go to the pier and catch a sunset, because sunsets are
oh
my
yeah,
safe place, right?
yeah.
And when you're able to just sit there and not think about anything and just take a walk and oh, look at that cloud, it looks like this. I'm really big on trying to find stuff in the clouds, right?
Yes.
Um, and after I lost my brother and a good friend the year prior to that, um, I always try to look for signs that, oh, they painted that picture in the sky for me. Oh, look at that it
Mm,
looks like an angel. When I lost my friend in the pandemic in 2020, so this is around the time when we couldn't see our loved ones, right?
mm.
And I couldn't give her a proper goodbye, I couldn't say bye to her and stuff. Um, it took me a week to get out of my house. I was so isolated and just so shut down. Very first sunset that I saw, it looked like a phoenix rising out of the sky.
Oh wow.
It is one of to this day, one of the craziest things that has ever happened to me because she was such a strong pillar in my life. And after she passed away, seeing the phoenix rise from the bottom of the sky was just, it was so special. So I could see why walking would be so beneficial opposed to just running. Not that running's bad, of course, but you get to absorb everything.
I was going to ask you that. That's actually a question I had for you when going through some of the things that we go through. Did you find yourself not wanting to go outside, not
Oh,
wanting,
yes.
at least almost like you can't see the beauty that's surrounding us?
Everything is black.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
not being able to sleep for like 3 months after my brother passed away was horrible.
Hmm.
Um, Thankfully, I found therapy like just before the pandemic. So, when I got to talk to her about my brother passing, she kind of, because growing up, I was never encouraged to get help for myself, right? I was never taught as a man to talk about your feelings because there was always that judgment there, right?
Right.
And after he passed away, she's like, if anything like this happens in the future, heaven forbid it does, of course, you can call me and we can do a quick session right there if you need to talk. I didn't know that. So I sat there for, after he passed away, I think I was in the house for 2 weeks before I left. Like it was bad.
Mm.
And and I think that's what a lot of people don't understand about grief is we all grieve differently, right?
Right.
And like you said, it's hard to see the beauty of everything. It could be the most beautiful 65 degrees out in Florida weather that you could possibly ask for. And all I would see is darkness because that piece of my life was ripped out of my heart. So, yeah, I think that's something that I think is really important to bring out is a lot of people take the nature that we're surrounded by for granted sometimes.
Hmm. Yeah, we did. It's funny because when I'm in Tennessee right now, and I was sharing with you, we have an ice winter storm hitting, which I know a lot of places get the snow, right? And I've heard I'm one of those people that like, I don't want the snow, I don't want the snow. And then I had a friend of mine like, I have been praying for snow. I want to see snow. And I'm like, what? And she was like, it's so beautiful. How many times a year do you get to see it? So I had to remind myself and almost force myself to go to the window. And I was just like, Snow, I welcome you. You're a gift. You're beautiful. You were created for a reason. It's supposed to snow for a reason, right? It's supposed to rain
Mhm.
for a reason. It's supposed to sunshine for a reason. And I had to remember that all of these creations, everything that's ever been created that serves a purpose and a function, it is something beautiful.
Yeah,
And one day we won't, there'll be that day when we're not going to see it anymore. Or I think
exactly.
about someone that's even lost sight. Maybe they did, they would love to see a snowfall.
Yeah.
And it's a mental change in the way that we view and see things. And I literally
Yeah.
had to do that this morning, like walk over and go like, you know what? Welcome, snow. You're beautiful,
Yeah.
and because my perspective was off on that.
Yeah.
So,
It's funny when our perspective is changed or skewed in some way of, somebody else's perspective, like, oh, we might not be able to see it again one day, or like you said, the people who don't have sight, or even the people who are colorblind. Like, I didn't realize the colorblind
oh
thing
yeah,
could be as traumatic for people as it is. But then
yes,
I think about it, if I saw a black and white sunset, it probably wouldn't be special to me. So I can only imagine how the world looks when everything is black and white, you
hmm
know? Um,
hmm
but yeah, I really big on a perspective changer, when you're able to rewire your brain and think about things like Florida, for us, it's hurricanes, right? We dread hurricanes all the time. The positive part of hurricanes is it brings some of the most incredible sunsets I've ever seen.
Oh wow,
But unfortunately, that comes with the
clumsy.
destruction it leaves behind, right?
Yes,
So it's kind of like with the snow, where it prevents you from going anywhere for however long. But in the meantime, you get to watch it fall on the ground and get to cover everything in white, and it's a gorgeous sight. So it's kind of like you got to learn to balance all
yeah.
of the negative and positive perspectives, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I think too, when when we have snow days, when we have, like you said, hurricanes, things like that, it also gives us that perspective of being able to help others, reminding
Yeah.
ourselves that we are to be there for others during this process. Because I remember people, we were all, everyone was running to the grocery store. I just shared with you, if you go out on Facebook for Tennessee, there's all these funny jokes about snow days in Tennessee and what it's like, and the grocery stores. But the reality in the middle of all that is there are a lot of people that couldn't get to grocery stores,
Yeah.
and I remember just kind of sitting back praying about it. I was like, Lord, I want, who needs groceries right now? Where do I need to go to find out who needs groceries? So I think these times in our lives are, how do I step out of myself? How do I step out of myself? And how do I step out of a grieving process? How do I step out of where I am mentally and remember that there's others that are needing help right now?
Yeah. And, to speak to that too, while you're grieving gives us the chance to be selfless, right? It gives us the chance to give your heart to other people that might need an ear, to have somebody listen to them, to be there for people that are struggling too. Um, I think there is a tremendous amount of negativity around grieving, which, of course, grieving is something that I don't wish on anybody. But
Mhm,
on the flip side, you can use all that grief to tell your story, to share why it hurts, and talk to people that can relate to a loss, especially if you lose a parent, you lose a sibling, right?
mhm.
And grieving isn't also just a loss of a life. It's a loss of a job. It's a loss of a city that got wiped away by a hurricane, God forbid. And, it's so many things that can give you the opportunity to be selfless and give your heart out to people like you were just saying with the groceries.
It's funny because you were talking about work, or you were talking about jobs and even loss of jobs. I remember when my husband and I started our company, and at first we were so excited. Like, we knew we were about to start something. It was going to bless people, it was going to help them, but never did I dream it would be so hard. We had
Yeah.
zero background in it.
Hmm.
And so probably the first 2 years into it, I'm thinking, I'm losing the momentum.
Yeah.
I'm I'm losing that momentum of why are we doing this? And I remember I was crying more than I was feeling joy. And in my quiet time with the Lord, I literally heard these words: I can take it away tomorrow if you don't want to do it.
Mm.
And I sat there. Now I'm crying for a whole different reason. I've had a couple
Yeah.
of these moments throughout the history of us doing this business, because it's been a 13-year, very long journey that I
Yeah.
never dreamt would take 13 years to build the foundation.
Yeah.
because we built the foundation wrong. So now the foundation had to be rebuilt in the
Yeah.
right way. And nobody had taught me how to do this, or my
Right.
husband, when it comes to that. And so I remember one of the things that I did during that moment when I heard I could take it away tomorrow. I mean, I'm crying. I went through those doors the next day. I'm so happy to walk in these doors. What a blessing this place is. Because I was losing perspective of why we started. It was
Yeah.
always like we would be in the like here's a piece of paper. Here's, something in the middle. We're in the middle, and it's everybody out here that we're doing this for, but we had to learn how to do it. And so all of a sudden I stopped remembering all the people we were doing this for. And I think that was one of the biggest lessons for me, because I started walking through those doors with a whole different perspective of, man,
Yeah.
what a blessing it is to come in here every day, because it could be gone tomorrow.
Right. And that, that kind of makes me think of the quote, don't ever think that bad things can't happen to you. Right.
Yeah. Mhm.
We get so comfortable in the highs that we don't think the lows are anywhere near us, that it
Mhm.
takes us just tripping one time to fall on our face. Right.
Mhm.
And I think to what you were speaking to was essentially burnout and losing your reason why. And I think that is one of the most challenging things in what we do, what you do with your business, or what I do with the community is in October, I had lost a friend who had taken his life.
Mhm.
And I took a really long break, probably a break longer than I wanted to. And come December time, when the holidays are rushing in and everything, it's like, man, I want to get back to recording. I want to get back to talking to people, meeting people like yourself, meeting other people and hearing their story. And I couldn't bring myself to open my laptop and make sure that I follow through on some dates. I'm like, hey, I got to push this till January. I got to push this till January.
Yeah.
And when did my first recording last week, that was my reason why. It was like, man, I've been doing this for 3 years and I feel like I've helped some people. I'm not sure. I have those doubts in the back of my head. And I guess a form of burnout, like you experienced yourself, and then you remember why you did it,
Mhm.
why you're doing what you're doing. And my reason why was to talk to a 19-year-old kid who went through what I went through, and hearing somebody as young as he was and as wise as he is. I'm like, man, I wish I could have the resources that he had or that he has right now when I was his age, because I was a mess at 19 years old, right? Like when you and I rewind the clocks 20 years ago, like the world is a completely different
Yeah.
place. Resources, conversations like this, like we couldn't have these conversations without it being frowned on, like, oh, this guy's talking about mental health. Like, why? He's crazy. And, that's just the stigma,
Yeah.
you know, that's just the stigma that was raised above our head with mental health. But that was my reason why. And I love doing this. I love meeting new people. I love hearing people like yourself's story and just hearing people's reasons why. That's my reason why, and I'm so glad that you found your reason why. And congrats on 13 years. That's incredible.
Thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate you guys, you having me on here, because I was nervous about doing the podcast, and I shared that with you. I was like, my husband and I said, we've been kind of behind the closed doors. We've got a production facility, we have a production team, but I'm doing the customer service and the shipping. He's working on, some of the whole food clients that we're in. And so it's kind of, we know we have to get out there, but
Yeah.
that's another area where I started getting too comfortable. And
Hmm.
I'm just like, mentally, I was like, no, 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 I'm good back here. I'm good back here in shipping. I'm good on the phone. I pray a lot with people that call in. That's one of the things that I never dreamed I would get to do with what we're doing. Um, I had I've been to funerals. Like, I've gotten to know clients that I never dreamed I would get to go to, a funeral of someone that was coming in to buy products from us. That to me was like, I don't know how to describe it, to explain it. Like, I've I feel so humbled. I feel very humbled that, even with what you're doing, one person. one person, if one person is touched by what you're doing, it's worth it.
Right.
And it's worth every day going in to do what we do because
Mhm.
we've geared everything that we're making through the stories of people's health journey. So if it weren't for all these people that we've met, I don't think our products would be like they are right now.
And
So
growing
cool.
that
Mhm.
interpersonal relationship with people is so powerful.
Yeah.
It all it takes is that one conversation, right? It
Mhm.
just how are you could change somebody's entire life,
Yeah.
and to hear that you had to go to somebody who you grew close to's funeral, I mean, that's heartbreaking, and it sucks that
Mhm.
you had to experience that, but I'm more than certain you put years on that person's life by
Yeah.
just knowing them and growing that relationship. And I think that's one of the most important parts of what we do is whether we're helping one person or whether we're helping a million people. All it takes is that one person to smile at somebody, and that could change somebody's entire trajectory of their life.
Yeah.
Um, I remember in the mental health group that I have on Facebook, there was this young lady who I believe she was in her 30s.
Mhm.
And she would just kind of always be like, I'm just at the end of my rope. I don't want to do this anymore. And it would kind of become a trend and not for like attention. And it kind of started to worry me a little bit because she wasn't responding to messages.
Mm.
So I had a mental wellness check sent to her house.
Oh,
She
wow.
got very upset with me because I did that because the cops knocked on her door and just checked up on her. And then a day later, she messaged me and she apologized for being upset. She's like, "You saved my life."
Wow.
And when you hear things like that and you get humbled, it's like maybe I do make a difference. And you know, I think doing what we do on a day-to-day basis, whether it's you with the eBars and me with the podcast and the group, um, it's always a feeling that we can't quite describe, but it makes our soul and makes our heart just feel so good.
Well, it reminds me of the movie "It's a Wonderful Life." Now,
Yeah.
I'm older than you, so I'm sure you know what that movie is, though most people do.
hmm
But "It's a Wonderful Life" at the end, where he had no idea the people's lives that he had touched and influenced. And I think that's one of the things we spend so much time on ourselves. There's so much time every day that we get up. Yes, we're getting up, we're brushing our own teeth, we're getting ourselves ready for the day. But every day that we wake up is really about, are we influencing someone today?
Yeah.
Love and kindness and meekness and humility. It, it's there has to be this change on ourselves where we no longer live just about ourselves.
Right. And, just to use a movie reference myself, because I'm a really big movie guy, Groundhog Day is a really good example of that,
Yeah.
right? And when people think Groundhog Day, it's like, oh, it's a comedy. I don't know what the reference is. If you think about that movie and why the days keep repeating itself for him, is because
Yeah.
he is so self-centered. And the very first part of when he knows that the next day is just gonna be the same, what does he do? He eats and eats and eats. And then he figures out how to rob an armored truck. And
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
finally starts devolving to the point of when he's trying to take his life and he realizes he can't take, and I don't want the listeners to take this the wrong way. He wants to take the easy way out instead of trying to improve himself. And again, just to kind of reiterate, I'm not saying that it's easy to take your life. I'm more so saying the point of the movie was that he can't just take his life, that there's a lesson to be learned in what the reasoning for the days repeating himself. And
Yeah.
that goes on the very last night of when he's helping the old ladies with the car. He's learning how to play piano. He's bringing joy and happiness to everybody around him. And he saves the mayor's life, right? And then the next day, it's the day after finally, because he helped so many people, because he fell in love with somebody and he drove all of that energy that was towards himself to everybody else. And that
Right.
goes with what you were saying. When we start living outside of ourself and we start being more selfless for others,
Yeah.
life is a whole heck of a lot better.
Hmm. Yeah, and I agree. And I that took me years, years. Again, I'm older now, but I'm laughing because I said I can't remember if I'm 51 or 52. I'm not even but I'm proud to be my age. When I look back now for all the things, I mean, if people were to say, "Oh, what has she ever been through? What has she said?" I have been through more stuff than probably people would ever guess,
Right.
and I could check off so many boxes. And I've lost people that I love, and some sadly to take in their life. Some that had more money than I've ever seen, and obviously that is not enough to make someone happy. It
Right.
really is, and I loved this person very much. One in particular, one that's coming to my heart right now. Um, but I remember this day, I still loved being around her. I don't know if she realized how much people loved being around her. And I think sometimes I think I was probably more of a downer when I would speak. I was always the glass half full, empty, where she was always
Mm,
the glass half full. It was like, and so it's been taking me years to step out of that and really see, no, that glass is almost full. It might look half full, but it is almost full, and it's going to keep filling up.
yeah.
And or just to even feel this joy that I feel now, I don't know how to explain it. It's like I just started truly casting my cares. For me personally, I learned how to cast my cares on the Lord. It was like I'm not big enough, strong enough to truly do everything that has to be done. I
Yeah.
can't. I'm one person, but every day that I wake up, can I smile at you? Can I look outside and say, wow, what a day? What a day. Can I appreciate the rain even when it looks gloomy out? It's taken me a lot of years, but I'm happy.
I love
And
that.
I'm happy. And I think when we put that into what we're doing, like for me personally, it's a choice. I go in every day. Thank you that I get to go in here every day. I'm not going to look over my shoulder anymore, wondering when the ball's going to drop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we make our products, what am I putting in them? I don't mean what am I physically putting in them. I'm talking about if you come out to do your show before you even turn on that computer, man, I just bless everybody that's going to see my face, that they're not going to see me. They're going to see the joy that's within me. They're going to see I'm not a survivor, I'm a thriver. What are they going to see today? And I
Yeah.
think that, so when I go in and it's not just what I'm putting physically in the products we make, it's that I'm, I just call in the joy of the Lord in these products. I want to see marriages restored. I'm going to see this in it's like I'm speaking over everything that we do there with
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing. You're getting on your podcast and you're speaking life into that podcast. You're speaking life into the people's lives, and you watch life will expand.
Yeah.
Life will give life, right?
Right.
So the more life you speak into it, even before you come on, it's like it's just that life continues to spread.
Yeah. And especially when you're passionate about it, right? And I think again, if you're not passionate to do something, then you shouldn't be doing it.
Mhm.
And I think that goes across the board, whatever career path that you're chasing. I feel very important to chase after what you're passionate about. My passion is mental health, music, and sunsets, and I chase all three, right?
Yeah.
And I think when I come on here, I always have to just kind of decompress before every podcast. It's kind of like, okay, we're gonna have a good podcast. We're gonna have a great conversation. You've researched this person, and you know at least a little bit of the ins and outs of the person, but the questions are just more of a guideline for me that I have on the side. It's not, I don't go through everything robotically. I want it to go as organically as possible. So I always just kind of go, okay, this is how we're going to lay it out. We're not going to follow all questions straight through, but we're going to have this conversation be as organic, as passionate, and as wholesome as I could possibly make it. And, you know, just kind of speaking a little bit more about your product, about the eBars. This is a question I had written down. Nutrition and mental health are deeply connected, right? If you don't have a healthy body, it's hard to have a healthy mind.
Yeah.
How do you see eBars contributing to overall wellness beyond physical health?
Mm. It's funny because when we started this journey, we again, if it weren't for people coming and telling us things that they were going through, like we knew we were just a piece in a bigger puzzle um, of how to help deliver something in a product. And so it had to be more than just an energy bar. It had to be more than a health bar. It had to be a delivery mechanism of some kind. And so we knew if we made it all organic, if we made it cold pressed, where it wasn't being heated, treated, or anything like that, we knew, okay, now we've got now it's healthy, but what can we add to it where now it's a delivery mechanism? And so you've heard of nutraceutical, you've heard of pharmaceutical. We coined the phrase wholeceutical, where we did it like a whole food delivery mechanism. So like we have a bar called Calm, and we knew that people who had anxiety, taking medications, things like that, what could we put in here that would naturally help bring calming to the body or aid in that? And would it work? And so we thought, and we didn't know enough about this industry for anybody to see. This is another thing. We hadn't been told we couldn't do it. The minute somebody says, "Oh, you can't do that," now you start questioning. So thankfully, we came into it with no background in it. So we were like, let's try it. We had heard a natural doctor say, "Did you know that rhodiola, ashwagandha, and cordyceps, when you blend those together, it helps naturally calm the body?" We were like, no. Could we put it in a bar? I don't know. Let's try it. And so we did. And we were like, and my husband was like, well, let's call it Calm. And we were like, can we do that? Let's trademark it. And it's like all these things that we didn't know how to do started coming together, because of what people were going through. But we had one called Focus that we were targeting ADHD and ADD because my husband grew up dyslexic, made fun of, going through all the things that he went through, diagnosed with ADD and all this. He was like, well, what can we put in a natural bar that we make that helps wake up the neurotransmitters at the same time, get them functioning and flowing, and something that won't cause people to crash? And so that took a couple of years, and we were able to come up, through a series of talking to numerous people, we came up with the Focus Bar. And I've noticed they're conversational pieces in people's homes. It's not just like I've had people, I'm careful going into stuff too much, but I've had people with marriage issues that have ordered our products, and they say they actually get excited when they're getting them because it's something that they have in, like they share this in common, and they both like them, and they both get, it's like they look forward to getting the package. And I don't think it's just about what we do. I think there's people that come on to watch you, and all of a sudden whatever they were going through just melts away for that moment. And I think that's kind of what we're delivering here is something, we're an option for people. um, we've got Immune Bar. I've got one right here. Immune, all your vitamins and minerals for the day, but it's all plant-based. We've just tried to listen to what people need. And it's cool because I don't want to get lost on this subject. We're making them for people. We're not
Hmm.
making, they're not just for us.
Right.
So when they go into the homes of people, they're usually meeting a need. When you go into the homes of people, you're meeting a need,
Hmm.
and it's something that you're touching the heart of a person.
Right. Right.
And that's exciting to think. I was always about myself for so long.
Hmm.
And now my life is about how can I be used in this life to meet a need?
Right. And I feel
Can you
like the
imagine if we all came together like that?
right. And I feel like the most important part is listening, like you said, listening to your customers and listening to their needs. I feel like there's so many different parts of this world, whether it's the pharmaceutical industry, whether it's the medical industry, that don't listen enough to their clientele, that it's just like, oh, well, here's some medicine. Take that, you'll be fine. But it causes this, 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 and this.
Yeah.
And when you're listening to feedback and you're listening to, what people are needing and what people are looking for, I think it's so important that you're incorporating not only their needs, but doing the research that you need to do, like you said, having that conversation with that doctor. Um, and I love that you listen to that feedback and you take all that feedback and just like lay it out and be like, okay, this person has anxiety. How can we tackle that? This person has ADD. How can we tackle that? Um, I feel like most of the time, I'm not going to say all doctors, but I feel like most of the time they're looking to treat a symptom. They're not looking to treat a cause of something, right?
Yeah.
And
Mm.
and I feel like this kind of brings me to a question: is do you ever find any pushback from the pharmaceutical industry at all? Like, have you ever been just like told no, you can't do that, or something like that? Have you ever had any
Uh,
hard pushback?
One time, yes. It's funny because I don't know if we're big enough yet we're as we're growing. I'm hoping that, I'm hoping we don't have that too often. But I remember we had a bar. It had taken us almost a year because we know taste is important. That's always the number one. Does it taste good? Because we've created a new class of bar, but because no one knows what to do with us yet, we're in a bar aisle, right? If you go
Hmm.
to Whole Foods, we're in the bar aisle. But they even told us this is like a new class of bars, and we don't quite know what to do. Do we put you over in the medicine aisle? Do we put you over in the vitamin aisle? Or do we put you in the bar aisle? And I say that because we had a bar called Diabetic. Now we had
Hmm.
trademarked it, and we had made it an acronym. And it hadn't quite taken off yet when they came in and told us we were going to have to shut that one down. And because it
Hmm.
took us about 8 months to make a chocolate that would be diabetic friendly and taste really good. And so
Right.
we were super excited, like, wow, this is going to be something. So there's a few things that we've made that the public hasn't quite known what to do with it yet because they don't know if it's another scam, if it's going to really work, is it just another gimmick, is it, so we're not a gimmick, we're a piece of a puzzle of really wanting to make a difference in people's lives. We're not for everyone, but the ones that are going to be able that but we're for some of them, right?
Hmm.
Just like you're not for everyone, but what you do is going to touch some lives. And so that was a hard one when we got shut down on that because we know how there's a lot of diabetics, even in my family, dealing with um, diabetes. And so we were super excited about that one. Doesn't mean we can't come out with something different. That was one of the ones that we had to shut down.
Right. And aside from your website, the ebars.com, I believe is just the website, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, how do you guys get the word out about your product? Like, do you guys go to conferences, or how do you go about getting the word out of your product?
That's a hard one. We tried everything in the beginning.
Mhm.
We tried everything. I mean, we went to every race, every convention we could think of. You know, we're proud that we started in Franklin, Tennessee, but we had been told, oh, if you'd been in California, if you'd been here, it would have already this or
Sure.
that. And so again, the foundation of what we did took so long that we're just now truly, like I said, this is my first podcast. I've done a
Yeah.
couple of things ministry wise, but not coming on podcasts for eBars. So I'm excited to see where all of this is going to go because I feel
Yeah.
like now we're finally ready. The taste was so important because it's almost like I don't want to say this like not everyone. I don't mean it this for everyone, but it seems like the general consensus was, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sure it does something good for you, like everything else, but does it taste
Sure.
good?
Right.
Because people don't know what to believe anymore. We've,
Hmm.
And so we knew we had to go back to the drawing board and really hone in on the taste. So we make everything in house now. We roast the almonds, we make the almond butter. We roast the peanuts, we make the peanut. We do everything fresh now ourselves to get it where the taste is there and the function is there.
I love it. And I feel like it's so hard to be genuine in an industry where, like you said, there are so many gimmicks, there are so many scams, right? And I mean, you go on TikTok, you can find the same product, same type of product 18 different times, and it's like, oh, well, it does this. No, but it doesn't do that. Oh, it does this, but it doesn't do that. And it's like, I can only imagine how hard it could be just trying to not only grow, but just to kind of prove yourselves in a sense. Like you
Mhm.
said, just getting the foundation itself is super challenging because you don't know what your audience is going to look like. You don't know what your clientele is going to look like. So, um, I'm glad that you got the foundation figured out, and I think it's so important to stay, homegrown stuff. I think is great. I think doing things in house, not a lot of people are willing to do that often because it's easier to
I did
offshore
not
stuff.
know that. I thought, I mean, my husband and I, like I said, we didn't know coming into this. We didn't know what other people did. We just assumed, right? We thought everybody made their own products when it comes
Hmm.
to health bars, and found out like when we would tell people, oh, yeah, we have a manufacturing facility. Really, would you be willing to make our bars? And we're like, what? Don't you make them? Huh? And so we thought, a lot of people outsource and have other places make their products. Not that that's a bad thing. Sometimes I'm like, my goodness, could we have grown faster if we had? But again, I'm so glad we've gone the route that we've gone. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a gift every day. It's a gift when people walk through the door. We're a closed facility, but every once in a while someone will come and knock because again, we're in there making them with the crew. We're doing a lot of the work with our crew. And so when people come in, I mean, and we get to sit with them to see them cry or just sometimes they'll just start crying like they're so, oh, we're so glad we found you. And I'm like, really? I mean, it just melts me. It melts me every time.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I don't ever want to get used to it. You know,
Has there ever been a moment in your life when you realized you needed to prioritize your mental health more intentionally?
yeah. So one of the second things that hit me when I was when we had spent everything we had. I mean, our entire life went into this pretty much. Then I realized all of a sudden I didn't know who I was. Again, there was that second time, probably about 5 years ago. The first time was 2 years into it. The second time was about 8 years now had gone by, and I was falling apart. Like we put so many hours in, and I mean, now we're being told, why aren't you out there yet? Why this? Why that? And all these whys and finger pointing and are y'all just there was a lot of things being said about us, like, from people that were coming in invested with us. And all of a sudden I'm questioning everything at this point, to the point where I wasn't talking to anyone. I was crying again all the time. And I just couldn't do it anymore. I
Hmm.
wasn't any good as a mom. I was falling apart as a wife, as a business owner. I thought, this is it. This is what, I've heard so many stories of people that have gone under and lost their business, and all of a sudden they've got a hope, like they were coming in hoping that we would make it, like they because now they're eating the products, right? And they're just like, they're sharing their hopes and their dreams and their losses, and I'm thinking now the pressure, like, what if we can't, what if we don't, what all these things started piling up to the point where I was literally falling apart. And I remember I love the Lord. That's my relationship. But I'm realizing I don't even have intimacy with my maker anymore. Like I had, like, it's like I couldn't feel anything. And so in the middle of the night, talking about night and going out, I could only feel the presence of the Lord going out in the middle of the night, like because the stars were out, the moon was out, and I just would go out in the middle of the night walking. I am not somebody that wants to walk around outside in the middle of the night. I don't care where I am. And but I just couldn't feel anything anymore. And so I remember the third night into it, I just fell down in the middle of the road sobbing. And I just said, God, there has to be more. There has to be a missing link. I'm missing it. I'm no good to you. I'm no good to anybody anymore. And I don't know what to do. And for me personally, I had that third night in when I was literally in the middle of the road in our neighborhood, just sobbing, crying. And I felt the presence of the Lord so strong come over me, like a beautiful blanket just came over me and said, child, I've got you. It's like a download came, something that I had never known before. Nobody could ever get the credit for telling me. And it's like it changed me. And it hasn't left me since. Like it was a newness that came over me of why get up every morning to go in to do this. And
Right.
it was even stronger than the one that I had 2 years into it. And it has not left. It has not left. And I don't know how else to explain it other than for the first time, I know that I know that I know why I do this now. I know
Yeah.
it. I know why I get up every day. If it were gone tomorrow, I am so grateful that I've gotten to experience this, that I've gotten to meet the people we've gotten to meet, that we got to do what got to do.
Yeah.
And I just believe it's the beginning of where we're going with it.
I'd love that so much. I wanted to ask you a question about your faith because
Yeah.
just hearing your testimony there, I think is just so powerful, and I know some of our listeners will greatly appreciate you sharing that. Um, what role does faith, community, personal support play in your emotional well-being? You know, you kind of shared that it gave you your reason why, and you know why things are going the way that they are. What part does that play in, I guess, your well-being?
Mhm. Oh, wow. I don't, it's strange. It's hard to, okay. So every day that I wake up, I've been doing, I say declarations, biblical declarations. Somebody might wake up and do affirmations, right? It's like every day, and I think this is one of the things that we don't do enough of because I went most of my life. Again, I'm in my early 50s, and I went most of my life, oh, I'm a good person, or I'm this. And then all of a sudden I'd be like, oh, I'm a bad person. I don't even, and it would be like this up and down emotional roller coaster thing. And I know it's not just a female thing, but it probably looked more emotional. But now I do biblical declarations and I get excited every day. I wake up before I get out of the bed. My husband he'll hear me already doing it. This is who I am. This is what I was created to be. Some people are like, I just want to know what I was created for. You know what? You were created to be a joy. You were created to have a smile on your face and to love others. If you don't know anything else, we we want to know what we were created to do and work. We want to know what was I created to do today as far as a job. And I've heard elderly people, even in like I've done some teaching things with even with elderly, well, is my life over? What am I supposed to do now? I'm like, no, put a smile on your face and go out and tell people they are worth smiling at. They're worth living. It's like life is worth living. Like if we don't know anything else, if of why we're here, okay, can we be an encouragement? Can our life be about making a difference in someone else's life, even if it's just making them smile? Maybe somebody has an amazing sense of humor, but they've lost it along the way. But when they look back, maybe they used to make people laugh and smile, but they don't feel like they can do that anymore. Why? Why? It's only if you look at it. Okay, I don't. This is such a broad thing for me and a passionate thing I have because for 6 months I kept feeling like the Lord would wake me up in the middle of the night, get up and go in the mirror. and tell yourself how amazing you are. Tell yourself how beautiful you are. Well, I'm sorry, in the middle of the night, when I hadn't brushed my teeth and I'm in the middle of sleep and my hair is crazy, last thing I want to do is look in the mirror and go, "You're so beautiful." But because I remember though when I used to get up when I first started waking up, and I felt like the Lord was laying on my heart to do that, I would cry. I couldn't. I had come out of a really bad relationship, a first marriage, and I was learning forgiveness, and I didn't even know how to forgive myself. So everybody else was to blame, right?
Right.
But so looking in the mirror, I would just cry. And so it took about 6 months of getting up in the middle of the night, looking in the mirror, going, "Do you know how amazing you are? Do you know how beautiful God's made you? Do you know that when you smile, you bring joy to people's life?" And I've had people come in my office because we make bars that are soft. Some of them are like really soft, like a brownie, for texture to make it easier on gut health. Well, I had a woman come in. She had all of her teeth pulled and didn't have the money to get new teeth. And when she walked in that door, she was smiling from ear to ear. And she sat down, and all I could feel was a joy coming out of this woman with no teeth. And if she can smile and make me feel like that, like she was so happy to just be there, then why can't I smile at someone with confidence saying, "I just want to love you," and that you would feel the presence of joy
Yeah.
when I'm sitting in front of you?
Yeah. I
That
love
to
that.
me is there's nothing that can buy that.
If I could share a personal story with you, just to be a little vulnerable myself. Um, when I was 27, I had my second attempt. Had made a suicide note on Facebook, deleted it almost right away because I didn't want that kind of attention. And Santi, my brother who passed away, he had called me and he said, I had a sign from God that told me to call you. He's like, I just wanted to make sure that you're okay and I'm here for you if you ever need anything and I love you. All I ever wanted, from my first attempt at 14 to my second attempt to now, all I've ever wanted was for somebody to see me, somebody to hear me, somebody to, put their hand on my back and say, everything's going to be okay. And within 2 seconds, that man changed my life. And he had such a powerful relationship with God. And you sharing your testament just reminded me of that and just really touched my heart. And just wanted to say how much I appreciate your passion with your faith and with your community and what you do, because I think it's something that this world is missing is compassion, is love for each other. And I'm a really big believer in positive affirmations. I think looking yourself in the mirror and saying, today's gonna be a great day. Yesterday was a really hard day and you made it through. It's so important to retrain our brains to tell ourselves nice things, that positive self-talk.
Yeah,
And, again, I just wanted to say how much I appreciated you sharing your testimony because I think that's so powerful.
thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you. How
of
are we doing
course.
on time? Because I'm new at this, so I'm want to make sure I'm respectful
We're
of time.
yeah, we're almost at an hour, but it's okay. We get a little bit of time.
Okay.
Um, what does mental wellness mean to you, and how do you define success?
Hmm.
I
It's
know that's a
funny.
loaded question.
That's a loaded question because if you had asked me 5 years ago, then keep our doors being open, which would be financial, right? How do you keep your doors open? Got to have finances. How do you sell your house? Got to have your finances. It was strange because I started going through a series of things where I was living in a wonderful neighborhood, a dream neighborhood. I used to go in there and clean houses, and I remember I used to dream of living in there. And all of a sudden, one day I was living in there, and so that should have made me happy, right? And and that should have been, and I don't know, that should have been like there's so many things that I had experiences like that. Like I remember when my husband bought me my first car, and it was like, see my phone. it was finally something that I owned, and all these things that I thought would have just been mentally perfect and everything. And I remember when I felt like I was sitting on the sofa, and it was right after that moment experience had happened, where I was in the road in the middle of the night, it cried, and all of a sudden my life changed, you know, and months later I was sitting on the sofa and I heard, "Don't be afraid, you're getting ready to move." And we'd been renting that house for a long time. Uh, and I was like, "What do you mean, don't be afraid? We're going to move." 3 days later, the owners called and said, we've got to sell the house." And I'm like, "Okay." And then all of a sudden, my car starts going out. And I'm saying this for a reason. My car starts going out. And I heard, "Don't be afraid. Are you ready to give up the car?" And I'm thinking, my house is now going to be, where are we going to go? And now I'm going to not have a car. And I had no idea what the Lord had in store, because we were so consumed by having to take care of the house that it was overwhelming me, and I complained about it more than I found the joy in it. So when we had good friends that in their prayer time said, "Hey, y'all keep coming to our hearts. Do y'all need a place to live? We've got a mother-in-law house that we just built out." And all of a sudden we're like, "Yes, we do." And all of a sudden we're up on this big hill with farm animals and a beautiful view with nothing we have to take care of. And for the first time, I saw my husband sleeping outside on the porch, so relaxed. And I thought, what? Well, then with the car, all of a sudden we were down to one car, and I'm having to ride with my husband everywhere, not realizing how independent I had been, because I was that single mom, do everything myself, that I didn't realize how much I acted like I did not need his help. And so all of a sudden, we're riding together, and I'm realizing, wait a minute, this is my husband, and I've driven everywhere separate. I've done it all by myself, and now I need to learn how to be a partner to someone. Like, it was still all about me, you know. So it was strange, because all of my mental journey has been through experiences like this. And I'm realizing that all the things that I thought I knew, I didn't know. All the things I thought I had to have, I didn't have to have.
Yeah.
What I needed was a life that wasn't all just about myself.
Right. Right. I love that. And it's funny how success, the definition of success, changes for us over time, right? For me, I've been in survival mode ever since my mom left me homeless. I've been constantly trying to figure out, like, oh, I just need to get a lot of money and so I can get a house. I feel so behind everybody because of what I've been through. And then I got my apartment, and sometimes I have to remind myself it's like all I've ever wanted was peace in my life and love in my heart. That's all I've ever wanted. And I have that now. And the constant reminder of not having to be like this around everybody, not having to look over my shoulder like you shared, being in survival mode. I haven't been in survival mode since I started therapy. And it's such a special thing when you finally have that peace in your life and you can be willing to say, I worked for this. Like, this is what all of what I've been trying to do for the last half decade, I've been trying to get to, and I'm finally here. And when you hear the word success and you ask everybody, everybody has a different answer, right? And for me, success is not money. Success is not a big house and 3 kids and a wife. Success is love and peace. That's it. That's all I want. And it's people take that success and that word for granted because they don't know how to answer it most of the time.
Can I say something to you as a
Please,
mom, as a
please.
mother? I am so proud of you. I may not know you, but I can see your heart when you smile. I can see it in your eyes. I can see it in some of the interviews that I watch to get ready to come on. As a mom, I am so proud of who you are.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It
You
means a
are
lot to me.
loved. You are loved. There's a lot of people that watch your show that just is like, man, I love you. But as a mother's heart to a son, I love you. I love your heart to help others. Please don't let the world define you.
Thank you.
Don't let your past anymore define you. You are an amazing young man,
Thank you so
and
much.
I'm proud of you.
I appreciate you so
So,
much.
you
Um,
know, well, I mean
I
it.
think I think the hardest thing for me growing up was not hearing that from my parents, and I don't have a relationship with my mom, so those words you shared mean a whole heck of a lot more than you could ever know. So from my heart, thank you so very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Um, what advice would you give to women who feel overwhelmed balancing ambition, family, and mental well-being?
Oh, not this is a whole this is one of the things that I probably am teaching now on my midnight hour that I was sharing with you about is forgiveness, because I could come in all day long and say, you're not doing this, you're not doing this, you're not doing this. And I never understood. It used to drive me crazy when I would hear people, especially books. There's books out there of change me, Lord, and I would get so frustrated because I would see everybody else around me and think, I'm picking up all the load here. Hello. And it wasn't until I really sat down and I was like, Lord, change me. And I mean to walk to truly walk in love for someone and forgiveness like I've never known. And if I have a moment, one of the things that used to bother me, it was when I would talk to people about who were in abusive families and things, horrific things that would happen to them, and they would say, honor your mother and your father, right? That was a very controversial thing in scripture. Honor your mother and your father. How do you do this when you had what horrific childhood? It's things that I don't even have the words to describe that kind of childhood. And how do you honor them? Well, for me personally, in my alone time with the Lord, this helped me answer that. I went to the Lord and I said, I need to understand. And this is so if this helps even one person, I hope. I heard the Lord say, bring your parents in and stand them before me. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, I'm going to answer this question. I said, what does it look like? He said, bring your parents in. I said, okay, Lord, I'm bringing my parents, my mom and my dad. And I said their names and I'm standing them before you. He said, now honor me by honoring them. And I said, okay, how do I do that? And I heard, if your parents had never done a single thing in their life, ever, except this one thing, they were obedient and said yes and brought you into the world. Can can you honor, will you honor me, the Lord said, just for that? And some people, and can you just say that's the one thing they did? They said yes to having you and they brought you into the world. If nothing else. And can you now step away from all the hurt, all the pain, walk in forgiveness, and now move forward in your life? It's time to move forward in your life. And that to me hit, I don't know, it may not resonate with everyone, but it resonated in my heart so much
Yeah.
that I thought, if that's the one thing they did right, nothing else, you are here making a difference in other people's lives because of your life. And that was the one thing they were obedient in.
Yeah. And speaking from somebody who was estranged from both of his parents, that resonated with me a lot. Um, the greatest thing I've ever heard was accepting the apology that you know you will never get and forgiving them for yourself, right? And I think that was the hardest part for me was number one. accepting that they were never going to change. And number two, forgiving them for you. Don't tell them you forgive them for you. And you can move forward with your life and not hold on to that hurt. And that also comes with boundaries and everything else. But, it's if there's one thing they did right, it's having me. And I completely agree with that. We wouldn't be able to have this conversation if they said no. And I think that's such a beautiful and powerful statement that I think a lot of people can take with them. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. And I do want to say there are some that maybe anyone watching that maybe chose not to have a child. There's no condemnation there. I know that a lot of people fight over this. And at the end of the day, I want them to know that they're loved. That because there's some people right now that that's all they think about.
Yeah,
That why did I do this or did I make a mistake? And it's time to now say, you know what? Going forward, going forward, it's time to move forward. And how can I make a difference in other people's lives
yeah,
for the better?
yeah. So before we get to our closing words of the podcast, where can our listeners find you?
We're at ebars.com, ebars with an s.com, and I'm Jan, at ebars.com. And if they want, just let them, just if somebody emails me, just let them know, hey, I'm from the podcast. If they want to try the products, I'll send them a code and we haven't really talked about any of that, but I can, I'll send them a code so that I know that they saw the podcast. So
Okay.
you've been so gracious. Like I love that it wasn't all about business. It really is about the heart of people.
Yeah, and I think it's super important to blend the two because without our professional doesn't exist or it's not in a healthy place. So, um, thank you for sharing your heart. Thank you for sharing your passion for your faith. I think you are a wonderful human being and you have such a beautiful heart. So, thank you for being who you are.
Thank you. Thank
Of
you.
course. So before I read my quote, do you have any closing words that you want to share with our listeners?
No, just I really hope even just today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about yesterday. Every when I go to bed at night, one of the things that I start doing, I brush off today. I brush it off. I give it back to the one who gave it to me, and I'm like, anything that I did that wasn't of you, I apologize, and I'm just like, okay, now I'm going to bed, and I wake up and I welcome the new day. I'm like, this is a brand new day. I'm not going to worry about tomorrow, just today. And I think if we can somehow, now that's taken a long time to practice,
Yeah,
but now I get excited to do it. And I pray that just today, that whoever's watching this today, that it puts a smile on their face and just says, who can I smile at today? One time, who can I smile at today just to say you're loved? I'm not
yeah.
expecting a smile back from
Couldn't agree more. It all
them.
starts with that one conversation, that one smile, like you said. So definitely couldn't agree more. So today's quote comes from Hippocrates, and it reads, "Our food should be our medicine, and our medicine should be our food." I took that quote because, the eBars are meant for nutrition and to better our mental and everything, right? And I feel that everything we consume, not only just food, but media content, conversations, we're feeding our brain everything.
Yeah,
And when people think of food, you think of, oh, that's what's going in my system. It's not brain food too. Now, there's a lot of different conversations that you're feeding yourself that could be overstimulating, could be more negative than it needs to be. So, yeah, just for our listeners, just make sure that you're be careful with what you consume in every form. So, Jan, thank you again so very much for being on today's podcast.
thank you so much, Chris.
Of course. And for my listeners, as always, thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, be gentle with yourselves and much love.